Welcome, masses. Welcome back to One Name Sports. Dappa here. I know it's been a long time since I do a video, but my team was having a very terrible season. Didn't have much to talk about, but the season done. Season finished. And to ease the content back out, I'm going to start off with the best transfers of the season. I'm going to cut that part in two phases, the summer transfers and the ones that came in the winter window. And I'll also do the same for the flops of the season. If you like the content, please be sure to check us out on the One Aim IG channel. That's One Aim Sports or One Aim Entertainment on IG. We also have a gaming channel run by my cousin. It's called Edge. Make sure to check that out as well. But without further ado, we're just going to get right into it. There's a couple transfers to go through, but let me know in the comment section if you agree. Let's start it off. So looking at the best transfers for the season, I have to give my hats off to Arsenal and go with Ramsdale and Ben White. There were a lot of jokes in the summer when both of them were bought, and they shunned throughout the season. Ramsdale definitely saved a couple points himself. And Ben White wasn't spectacular, but he was consistent. Price tag still looks a little high, but as a Man U fan, I can't talk. We spent $80 million on a garbage truck. So, not too bad there. Moving over, I'd say for Brighton, Cucurella, he ended up winning their player of the season. He looks very good. I remember his days in La Liga. And now there's rumors with him going to the champions, Man City. So I don't need to say much more there. Yeah, even though they got relegated, the first black player that Burnley ever bought, in my memory, Maxwell Cornet, he did look very good. He was, a good utility player for Lyon. Played some right back, played some midfield, played some striker. He did pretty much the same for Burnley. I think he ended up being their top scorer for the season. So good to him. He'll probably stay a year in the championship with Burnley, hoping for the quick return. But for him, I hope he gets moved on. He's better than being in the championship. Moving on from there, I'd say Crystal Palace as a whole, they bought a couple different players. And that kind of ties in as well with the Chelsea loanees. But just for the players they bought Gui, who turned into an England international. They loaned Gallagher, who turned into young players of the season contenders. They bought Mateta, they bought Elise. It goes on. Vieira and whoever is in charge of their recruiting did a great job. And to kind of tie that in, the Chelsea loanees did a phenomenal job. Gallagher, as I just mentioned, Bruja, Livramento, there were a couple all over the place that just looked really good. So yeah, Chelsea's academies, they're putting talent out in the Premier League, and they're playing really well. One other relegatee that performed really well, especially in the first half of the season, was Emmanuel Dennis. Looked really good. I think the whole not going with Nigeria to the AFCON probably threw something off, but it's playing on Watford. It wasn't much expected, but I think for no expectations for some of the games that he was winning and some of the goals that he was scoring, definitely a good buy for Watford. Probably the same message I had for Cornet, I had for him. Probably plays a year in the championship, tries to get promoted back to the Prem. If not, he gets sell hopefully to another team where he can succeed and thrive and do what he need to do. Last two winter buys, Konate for Liverpool. Whenever he slips in for Matip, there's literally no change in that defense. It's just the best defense in the league by far. So just a great buy. He wasn't used much. He wasn't need to, but I think their record is 22-0. Whenever he plays, they haven't lost. So, there's no no arguments against that. The last person I will say, just because of his influence on the team, of course, Cristiano, I'm wearing his jersey. Costs a lot of money, doesn't impress, has an attitude of a 2-year-old toddler, but he scores goals, and we needed a lot of those goals this season. Maybe his attitude is what made Bruno and Rashford and Sancho can't find the net, but he's scoring goals. So again, without his goals, we probably lost, we'd be 15 points worse off. In the worst season I've ever seen Man U play, but he's a good buy. Moving on over now to the winter buys. We're going to start off with the crown jewel, and that's Luis Diaz. When Mane and Salah seemed to be tapering off, Diaz came in and he just looked like what I hoped Sancho would be. More on Sancho later. But great, cameo season for him, and I believe that he does collect a championship medal from Porto, and he already has 2 with Liverpool. So, that cabinet looking real nice. Moving from there, I'll say the 2 pickups by Spurs. Kulusevski looks really good. A flop for Juventus. They're giving him away for peanuts. He's a young player. I think he's 22 or something like that. And Bentancur, I've seen him play a couple games. He did not look good at all. Just looked out of place, looked slow, but came right into the midfield for Spurs, and he's a big part of their turnaround. The last 2 spots I'll give to Christian Eriksen for one. Just a phenomenal story. I don't need to really rehash that. We thought he had passed away last summer. For now, he came back, got dropped by Inter, came back and was phenomenal for Brentford. Tapered off somewhat as the season got a little bit longer, but that's no fault of his. But he just looks really good, and now he's rumored to be moving back to some of those bigger teams that are playing in the Champions Leagues, Europa Leagues, and stuff like that. So just a great turnaround for him. I will also say Bruno Guimaraes. I thought it was weird that they weren't playing him as much when they just bought him from Lyon. But he slowly kind of got more and more integrated into the team. And by the end of the season, the game's just ended, and he looks phenomenal. He looks like he's going to be running that midfield into the next era of league champions that Newcastle are probably destined to be with all that money. And I also throw in as well, I'll throw in Philippe Coutinho. He came in, reputation was in the mud, and he showed what he could do. Just flashes of brilliance. There was a couple of games, especially on the FPL side, where we were thinking we were going to get some returns from him. That didn't happen. But overall, I say for what he came in as and what he turned out to be, definitely one of the bargains of the winter transfer window. And I think that's the villain. Gerrard just sealed that, and now he's going to be a permanent member of the squad into next year. Let me know if there's anybody I missed. Jump in definitely in the comment section below. But now we're going to move on to the flops of the season. Expect to see a lot more of them by now. All right, starting off the flops of the season, we're just going to keep it as a whole. I had Crystal Palace as one of the buyers of the season. Flop of the season is Man U. None of our 3 major buys played in our final game of the season. Some of that is rotation. We're giving our young players some game, but Sancho wasn't healthy. Varane just hasn't been good enough. Ronaldo quit on the team. So it just goes to show where we are. Speaking of Varane, I thought he was going to come in and be Van Dijk for us. I gave him the nickname V12 Varane, and he looked like VW Varane. It was terrible. He did not look good. It doesn't help to have Maguire beside him, but it was just, we just were not a good team. I thought he would be able to take command and do some things. Maybe we need another French speaker within the team to kind of help him out. Um, not Pogba, but just any French speaker, maybe a French right back, or something. But yeah, he just did not look good. I'll keep it on to the big signees. Jack Grealish, just he was literally just bought so that other teams couldn't get him. Man City did not need him. He did not have any much of a season. Like it seemed for long stretches of the season that he was injured. He was perfectly fine. They just didn't need him. $100 million to ride the bench to sell number 10 jerseys. He's not better than Foden. He's not better than Sterling. He's not better than Mahrez. He can't work with De Bruyne. He's not better than Bernardo. And when Haaland comes, I don't know. I don't know. He's just not, to me, he's just not a $100 million player. And they weren't needed. Now he has a Champions Medal, which is great for him. You know, he can hold that over the head of a couple other generational talents. But yeah, Grealish was a waste. Speaking of another waste of $100 million, we'll go with Mr. Romelu Lukaku. You buy a player that plays a certain way, and you don't play that way. Like, Lukaku is not a attacking midfielder, second striker. He's not gonna be, he's a hold-up play. He likes to come deep and drive with the ball, and none of those are for the strength of Chelsea's midfield and what they're trying to do offensively. So he was left just starved for long stretches. Like, it was like when he was at Man U, you know, he was a little raw. Like, he seemed like he couldn't control. You know, we didn't have an attacking midfielder. Like, it wasn't for lack of trying. We just didn't have the talent. We didn't have, I think if he was in the team when we got Bruno, it would have been different, but we kind of used that money to get Bruno. But him on Chelsea, they just don't play that way. Mount is not looking for that. Mount is, you know, looking for the shot. He's not looking to play the feed or 1-2 or anything like that. Havertz fills that role better. Werner fills the role they're trying to do better. Like, Lukaku was, I don't know why he was bought. He should have just, not for his fault, but he definitely is better off at Inter. Inter have moved on. But I guess he's just going to collect his checks and go from there. Definitely flop or biggest L of the season to Roman Abramovich. I don't know what he was trying to do, but you know, he's tied in with the Russian government and the oligarchs 20 years, and you kind of just got pushed out the door. All the money you spent, all the love he had for Chelsea. Definitely a big L on Abramovich's, you know, CV for that. Another big L for the season, I'll give it to Nuno Santo. Flops of the season right there. Left Wolves, you know, they didn't have a good season last year, had a ton of injuries, Raul Jimenez being one of them. He stepped away, then miraculously after Spurs lost, didn't get the opportunity to sign 5 or 6 managers that they wanted. They signed him, he wins 3 games, and then after that, the team just quit on him. It's super damaging to his reputation. He now, you know, he looks inept as a coach. I don't know if he's probably going to get that kind of opportunity again. Maybe you move back to Portugal and try to rebuild from there, or, you know, pick up a championship team. But yeah, that was as terrible and as damning as it could be, and especially because he's a black coach, it hurt a little bit more right there. I did forget to touch on one player, and that's definitely Jadon Sancho. He started really slow, and you know, big money move, big team, never played in the league, but he seemed really timid early, like really intimidated. Maybe it's from Ronaldo, but when I saw Luis Diaz, I was like, dog, that's what I want. That's what I want from Sancho. There were flashes of it definitely as the season got later, but as Man U's season just kind of spiraled into feces, I don't know. And then he got injured. I don't know if he hurt his pride or he's actually injured, but I ain't mad at it. Reset it. Let's try again next year. I didn't care anymore. But at least he showed up. Unlike this player, and it hurt my heart to bring him up, but Leon Bailey. I think he might be the flop of flops this season. He early on, I think he scored maybe 2 goals, maybe 3 goals, but the flat, like whenever he played, we were like, yo, he's gonna be special. Like, you know, he was their other big money, but I think they paid more for Buendia, more on Buendia later, than him. But, you know, Bailey, the hope was there, but, you know, as Arsenal fans know, it's the hope that kills you. And Bailey, we were thinking like, yo, big thing for Jamaica, Bailey doing thing. Nope. Maybe it's a diet, maybe it's focus, maybe it's just the ligaments are just not that good. But he had barely been on the field, and by the time January came around, I don't think Gerrard had any more belief in him. Ramsey stepped up, and they brought in Coutinho, and Bailey barely touched the field after that. He for what Villa expected from him, and what the Jamaican population expected from him, to me, he's the flop of the season. You can't play. What did he play? Maybe 10 games. Terrible. He was healthy for a good portion of those. Also gonna say for the summer flops, Patson Daka, especially after Vardy went down, you know, eating nachos, and Patson Daka, they had free roam to run. Daka got bought for, you know, 35, 40 million, and you're thinking like, yo, you know, kick on now, ease Vardy into, you know, retirement. It just doesn't work. There's a rawness to how he plays. It seems almost like he's out of control a little bit. He doesn't run as hard. He's not as technical as we think. He's a good finisher, but there's just a way that Leicester plays with Vardy that, whether for good or for bad, can't be replicated with Daka. Even Iheanacho kind of finds his place, but Daka just did not look good. I'm sure they expected a lot more, especially when Vardy was missed for so much of the season. A little bit more production, because Daka was the starter, and it just didn't work. And lastly, a player that honestly a lot of people forgot about, Brian Hill. They let go of Lamela and brought Brian Hill to come in, and he was supposed to take over for Lucas Moura, and, you know, maybe take away Bergwijn's game, but they ended up loaning him back out, and he's not playing over there. Lamela did, you know, had a good job with Sevilla, and then they ended up bringing in Kulusevski. Like, you spent, you know, a player plus fee for this young talent, and within 6 months, he's not good enough. That's definitely a waste of money, just overall. Another player, again, I mentioned him before, is Emmanuel Buendia. For the money they brought him in for, and for the job that he was supposed to do, and the reputation that he had with Norwich in the championship, and the amount of game time that he had, you would have thought he would have had more influence on the team. He was supposed to be the big Grealish replacement. He wasn't any part of that. Within, you know, the 4 or 5 months that Coutinho has been there, he's been better for Aston Villa than Buendia was the whole season, and that's my opinion. Next one I want to touch on is Vlasic. Came in with a big reputation. He was actually supposed to come in and be kind of the challenge, I guess. He's an attacking midfielder / striker, but I feel like he was definitely supposed to challenge Antonio and take away his spot. Didn't work out. They did spend a pretty penny on him. He did play some, but David Moyes kind of just sticks to the players that he trusts. Didn't trust Vlasic. It seems like a waste. And now they're still looking for a striker. So, you know, but flop for me. Another one who he moved in the winter, but his reputation was definitely supposed to start recovering. Didn't work out. Maybe it's a new environment. Again, the team were on the downward spiral. Maybe they'll save it on the second to last game week, and that's Dele Alli. I don't know what happened. A lot of English players this happens to. They peak really high early, and then there's no way it goes after that. But Dele Alli, I definitely hope for better for him. Hopefully he turns it around next season, but he was definitely terrible to the point that they weren't even playing him for long stretches. And the last player that I'm going to touch on is Saul Niguez. Why did they buy him? Why? People don't even remember that he was there. He was there the entire season. His first 2 games, he was so bad, he got substituted at half. Talking about a player that was captaining or vice captain in Atletico Madrid for years. Champions League finals, and I mean, like, he's a big reputation, huge player. He couldn't get any game. Loftus-Cheek was getting game over Saul. Couldn't tell me that 3 years ago. But yeah, he's a terrible, terrible season, and definitely an honorable mention for that. Let me know again in the comment section if I missed anybody. Drop that down below. You can also follow and hit me on the One Aim Sports IG channel. One Aim Entertainment. I forgot if I changed it or not. I'll definitely try to link it. But yeah, I'll try to push out some more content. A lot of changes has happened with me off camera, but I'll try to definitely put out more content for y'all. But again, let me know your thoughts, and thanks again for the support, and thanks for watching. Share it with everyone, Facebook, IG, WhatsApp, wherever your friends or family interested in Premier League content. And peace.